You're retired or heading there. You've worked hard. And what do you get? Property taxes that feel like theft, HOAs breathing down your neck, and utility bills that should come with a warning label. Meanwhile, bureaucrats are telling you how to live in your own home while your neighbors microwave fish at 7 a.m. What if I told you there are 5 forgotten American towns literally giving away residential lots for free? Not some remote island or hedge fund gimmick. I'm talking about Manilla, Iowa, where you get free land plus a 5-year tax holiday. Elwood, Nebraska, where they'll hand you up to $25,000 toward building costs. Real towns with paved streets, utilities ready, and one catch: you actually have to live there. These places exist right now, with infrastructure in place and zero interest in your previous zip code drama. Let's get into it before Congress remembers small towns exist. Hit that like button and subscribe because freedom is cool, but sticking it to overpriced real estate is cooler. Support the channel before the government declares free land a national security threat. First up, Manilla, Iowa. Picture a quiet Midwest town where the paved streets are already in place, utilities are ready to go, the whole infrastructure deal is set up for you, and they'll hand you a lot for absolutely nothing. That's right, free. Not free with 17 hidden fees and a mandatory timeshare presentation, but actually free. Here's how Manilla's Sunrise Edition Phase 2 works, and why it's basically the middle finger to every overpriced real estate market you've been dealing with. You get single-family lots at zero cost, no land payment, no down payment on dirt, no administrative processing fee that somehow costs more than your first car. The lots come with paved streets and utilities already on site with zero hookup fees, which means you're not getting nickel and dimed for the privilege of having electricity and water like some feudal peasant paying tribute to the local lord. But here's where it gets really good for anyone on a fixed income. They're throwing in a 5-year, 100% property tax abatement. That's 5 full years where you're not writing checks to fund the local school superintendent's 3rd vacation home or the mayor's nephew's consulting contract. For someone watching every dollar in retirement, that's not just savings, that's sanity. You're not just getting land here, you're getting to pick your own build, join a small community with plenty of space around you, and deal with fewer regulations than those suburban nightmare HOAs that fine you for having the wrong shade of beige mailbox. This is Crawford County, Iowa, rural setting with good access to the county seat and larger metros when you need them, but far enough out that nobody's measuring your grass with a ruler or telling you that your garden gnome violates the community aesthetic standards. Now let's talk reality, because free lot doesn't mean free house. You've still got to pay for the actual home, whether that's construction costs, a mortgage, or cash if you're lucky enough to have it sitting around. You'll need to build a single-family residence and comply with the subdivision covenants, which, yes, means even here, the local planning board wants to see your blueprints and make sure you're not building a replica of the Winchester Mystery House. The trade-offs are real. Rural Iowa means fewer amenities, longer drives to big city services, maybe slower internet, and your entertainment options might involve more grain silos and fewer Starbucks than you're used to. But here's the emotional payoff that matters. This is a deal that says you're not just another cash cow for the tax collector. You're getting a shot at owning land, building your own home, and stretching those retirement dollars in a community that actually wants you there, instead of just wanting what's in your wallet. From Iowa's free lot deal, we're heading to Kansas, where free land isn't just frontier nostalgia, it's been real policy. Welcome to Lincoln, Kansas, where they decided to hand out residential lots sized 14,000 to 35,000 square feet. That's roughly a third to nearly a full acre of land, which means you're getting the kind of space that used to be normal before every square inch got carved up by developers who think a postage stamp with a McMansion counts as the American dream. Lincoln, Kansas offered these free residential lots because the local powers that be figured out something revolutionary. Maybe if we give people land and let them build, they'll actually want to live here and pay taxes instead of fleeing to overpriced suburbs where they get fined for parking in their own driveway. The town already has utilities and infrastructure in place, so you're not starting from scratch with a shovel and a prayer. You get roads, power lines, water connections. The whole setup that makes modern life possible without having to reinvent civilization from your backyard. For someone who's semi-retired and tired of paying premium prices for premium headaches, this represents something that's gotten rare in America. A big lot, freedom to build what you want, a cheaper land base, and low overhead. This is the kind of deal where you can spread out, have a workshop, plant a garden that doesn't violate some neighborhood covenant about appropriate vegetable visibility, and maybe even park an RV without getting a nasty letter from the homeowners association. But here's where reality kicks in, because nothing good lasts forever when bureaucrats are involved. Some versions of this program required houses to meet minimum sizes, like 1,300 square feet for a one-story or 900 square feet for a two-story, plus a two-car garage, because apparently even in small-town Kansas, they want to make sure you have proper places to store your stuff. The bigger issue is that reports suggest this program has ended or changed in Lincoln, which means if you're considering this route, you better act fast or dig deeper to verify what's still available. The challenges are real, beyond just program availability. These big lots mean more maintenance, more yard work, more everything that comes with having actual space instead of a suburban postage stamp. Your retirement budget needs to account for the fact that you'll have real land to take care of. Plus, rural Kansas means trade-offs, fewer immediate amenities, potentially harsh winters, longer distances to healthcare and shopping, and internet that might move at the speed of a government employee processing your permit application. But here's the emotional payoff that cuts through all that practical stuff. This is your chance to snag the kind of lot you used to see back when America still had room to breathe. Wide, open, yours, without competing with big developers or paying a fortune for the privilege of owning dirt. It's a legitimate slice of freedom in a country that's gotten pretty stingy with handing those out. Now Kansas is solid, but let's head north to Minnesota for something a little different. And before you roll your eyes and mutter something about frozen tundra and lutefisk, hear me out. Claremont. Minnesota has quietly offered free residential lots through their Empty Lot program, designed for working families. And yes, you might actually qualify even if you're not some remote working millennial with a trust fund and a man bun. Claremont's program allows lots at no cost or reduced fees for families making less than around $129,000 annually for families of 3 or more. That's not poverty-level income, that's middle America money, which means if you're on a fixed retirement income but still able to work part-time or have some pension coming in, this could be your ticket to land ownership without the crushing upfront land cost that's priced out regular people everywhere else. They've partnered with a local builder, Arden Home Services, and they're targeting working families instead of just handing everything over to investors who'll flip it for profit. Here's how it actually works, because the devil's always in the details when government programs are involved. The program matches working families who meet income limits, requires 8 hours of homeowner education that's probably more useful than most college courses, and includes counseling for USDA mortgage programs. The town acquired 9 lots in a development, and they're building affordable homes on them, which means this isn't some pie-in-the-sky promise. It's an actual functioning program with real dirt and real construction happening. But let's talk reality checks, because free lot doesn't mean free house, and Minnesota has some specific quirks you need to consider. You still have to build or purchase a home through this program, which means financing, contractors, permits, and all the joys that come with construction projects. The income cap could work against you if your retirement income is too high. Which is one of those wonderful government ironies where making too much money disqualifies you from saving money. And Minnesota winters are serious business, So if you're used to gentler climates where ice scrapers are mysterious tools you see at gas stations, plan accordingly. The challenges extend beyond weather and paperwork. You need to check if lots are still available because these programs often target specific families and fill up faster than a Costco parking lot on a Saturday afternoon. But here's the emotional payoff that makes it worthwhile. For someone who's tired of being squeezed by land costs and property taxes that fund God knows what, this represents a path where the lot isn't the financial burden crushing your dreams. You get property rights, you build your nest, you join a community that's realistic about budgets instead of pretending everyone can afford to drop 6 figures on a patch of dirt just because it's within commuting distance of some overpriced metropolitan area. From Minnesota's affordable model, we're swinging back to Nebraska, and yes, you absolutely can find free land in Nebraska too. But Elwood, Nebraska sweetens the deal even further because they're not just handing you free dirt, they're actually helping you build on it. If you ever thought you needed a massive bank account to move somewhere with free land, this tiny town might just prove you wrong. Elwood offers free residential lots that measure 110 feet by 115 feet, which gives you a decent-sized piece of property with paved streets and utilities already in place. But here's where they go beyond what most of these programs offer. They'll give you a refundable $500 deposit and then reimburse you up to 10% of your construction costs, maxing out at $25,000. That means your land cost is zero, and your build cost gets a significant discount courtesy of local officials who apparently remember that government is supposed to help people instead of just collecting fees and issuing citations. This is the kind of arrangement that makes financial sense for budget-conscious movers. You're not just getting free land, you're getting a construction rebate that could cover a significant chunk of your foundation, framing, or finishing work. For someone watching every dollar in retirement, that $25,000 potential rebate isn't pocket change. It's the difference between building the home you want versus settling for whatever you can scrape together. The requirements are straightforward and reasonable, which is refreshing when you're used to dealing with bureaucrats who complicate ordering a sandwich. You need to build a single-family home, make it your primary residence, and start construction and occupancy within the town's specified time frame. No mysterious fees. No surprise inspections by the cousin of the mayor's brother-in-law, just clear expectations that normal people can actually meet. But let's talk about the reality of rural Nebraska, because honesty matters more than hype. You're looking at potential trade-offs like distance to major medical facilities, cultural venues that don't involve grain silos, and internet speeds that might remind you of dial-up days. Shopping options could be limited to whatever the local general store stocks, and your entertainment might involve more conversations with neighbors and fewer streaming options than you're accustomed to. Even with free land and construction assistance, you're still managing the logistics of building a house, which means dealing with contractors, permits, inspections, and all the delightful surprises that come with construction projects. This isn't a turnkey situation where you write a check and move into a finished home. It's an opportunity that requires active participation and probably some patience. Here's the emotional payoff that cuts through all the practical considerations. This is a place where local officials aren't telling you how to live. They're essentially saying, "Come build here, and we'll help you do it." If you've felt squeezed out of land ownership by regulations, costs, and bureaucratic nonsense, this represents a genuine middle finger to that entire system. Finally, let's go back to Kansas one more time, because there's a little-known opportunity in a tiny town that's slipped under the radar for most people, but perfectly demonstrates the model of land giveaways in ultra-rural America. Mankato, Kansas, with a population of around 900 people, offers free lots in their Johnson Addition neighborhood. If you're ready to think smaller town, longer life, less regulation, and a whole lot more actual ownership, this could be exactly what you're looking for. This is Jewell County, Kansas, where they're handing out free residential lots with the basic infrastructure already in place. You get utility hookups ready to go, roads that don't require a four-wheel drive vehicle to navigate, and the kind of setup that lets you build at your own pace without crushing land costs eating up your budget before you even break ground. For folks seeking real independence, this represents getting the groundwork done while you focus on the actual building instead of paying some developer's markup for the privilege of owning a piece of America. The remoteness here isn't a bug, it's a feature. Fewer officials breathing down your neck, lower cost of living across the board, and bigger pieces of land per dollar than you'll find anywhere near metropolitan areas. This is the kind of place where your nearest neighbor might be a quarter-mile away, which means no one's measuring your grass height or filing complaints because your truck is visible from the street. But let's get into the specifics, because details matter when you're making life-changing decisions. Houses in the Johnson Addition must be at least 1,200 square feet, so if you were planning on some tiny home experiment, this isn't your spot. Some programs require you to start construction within 6 months of acquiring the lot and complete it within 2 years, which means you need to have your financing, contractors, and building plans sorted out before you commit, not after. The challenges are real, and you should know them upfront. Remote location means trade-offs in job opportunities. If you still need income, medical care might require longer drives, and utilities like high-speed internet might be more wishful thinking than reliable reality. You'll need financing or cash for the actual construction, because free land doesn't mean free everything, and building in rural Kansas requires contractors willing to travel or locals who know what they're doing. Here's the emotional payoff that makes it all worthwhile. This is a land deal that says, take control of your life. Get the lot. Build something you actually own. Live somewhere you're not paying a king's ransom for dirt or dealing with bureaucrats who treat property ownership like a privilege they can revoke. This is about freedom again. The kind that's gotten scarce in modern America, but still exists if you know where to look and have the courage to make the move. You've now seen 5 real-world towns where land isn't some pie-in-the-sky promise. It's tangible, doable opportunity. Manilla, Iowa with free lots and tax abatement. Lincoln, Kansas with large parcels, though the program may have changed. Claremont, Minnesota targeting working families. Elwood, Nebraska adding construction cost assistance. And Mankato, Kansas, offering straightforward free land with infrastructure ready. Each has its own flavor, whether it's free lots plus tax breaks, construction help, or just plain free dirt with utilities hooked up. The script in big cities says you have to pay premium prices, you have to accept crushing taxes, you have to rent forever or mortgage your soul for a postage stamp lot. These towns flip that entire script. If you're sitting there thinking you're done with a system that tells you how to live, where to live, and what you must pay for the privilege, this isn't just a fantasy. It's a roadmap. You don't have to be young, rich, or connected to make a move like this work. You just need to be ready to build, to live intentionally, and to trade proximity to overpriced metropolitan nonsense for actual freedom. If this resonated with you, you absolutely need to watch our next video, How to Pick the Right Freeland Town and Avoid the Hidden Gotchas that could cost you everything. Because knowing these towns exist is step 1, but knowing how to move safely, research properly, and avoid the bureaucratic traps that can derail your plans. That's where the real game changer lives, because the only thing worse than being trapped in a system you can't control is paying into it when you could be walking away. Claim your land. Claim your freedom. Let's make it happen.